Buenos días, amigos. Yo estoy en casa todavía hoy, pero yo tengo una lección para ustedes. I am still at home. I've mustered up enough energy to get to see some doctors and wanted to share a little bit of teaching with you today. When I last left off with you, we had been talking about object pronouns. We were using reflexive object pronouns, indirect object pronouns, and then, of course, direct object pronouns. And hopefully you've had a chance to fill out that chart. You have it in your notebook. I'm not sure if Hannah has been going over that or not with you, but we can move forward in what's next in chapter 5. So that's why we're here today. All right, so if you open your books, por favor, abren los libros a la página 123. 123. And we're going to look at the personal a. And then we'll keep going with some of the possessive adjectives that follow in our chapter. If we want to think back to those particular sentences that use verbs with direct objects, like Elvis plays the guitar. Elvis plays what? The guitar. Remember that direct object answers what of what's being verbed. But what happens when we have a subject and a verb, and the direct object ends up being a person, like Elvis sees me. What does Elvis see? Well, he sees me. Or let's say I wait for Senora Amanda to come back to class. I wait for what? Senora Amanda. So that person is coming after a verb, and in order to protect that person or to serve as a buffer, in Spanish we add in the personal a. Now to you it looks like the letter A as it appears on page 123, but that personal a acts as a buffer when we have a verb and a direct object who is a person. So remember, that person can still be a direct object. We can still answer our what question with a person. They have a couple of examples there in your book. Veo a Barack Obama está hablando con Sonia Sotomayor, and then anoche conocí a Oscar Arias. So we have conocí, the verb. Oscar is the person, so there needs to be that buffer of the personal a in that sentence. Now you'll flip over and you'll see that this is a very short objective, which it is. It doesn't take a lot of brain power to remember that if we have a verb and a direct object that is a person, we need to put an a in between those as that buffer. Two examples or two scenarios where we don't use the personal a when it is a person. You'll find that on página 124. If that direct object refers to an indefinite person, like I'm looking for someone, I don't know if they exist or not, but if that is an indefinite idea, object, person, you don't need the personal a there. So the example, busco una nueva secretaria para ayudarme en la oficina. I am looking for a new secretary. I hope she's there, but I don't know if she exists or not. You don't need to put the personal a there. The second scenario where you would not generally use the personal a is with the verb tener. Tener would be the verb, and what follows if it's a person, like I have 2 daughters, yo tengo 2 hijas. I don't need to put the personal a in between that. It's just me holding on to my daughters. I'm not like doing anything towards them. I don't need to put the personal a buffer in there. So some examples, write these down. I'm gonna leave this up for a second. Esperamos Señora Amanda en clase. Do we put a personal a there or not? Or ellos tienen una maestra. I would have written una maestra diferente because you don't have me, you have a different teacher today. And then mi hija busca un novio. You remember novio? Boyfriend. All right, take a second, write these down. Amigos, if you did it correctly, esperamos, our verb, we wait for Señora Amanda. Verb, person, direct object. A should be included there. Or ellos tienen una maestra diferente. Ellos tienen, what did I say about the verb tener? No personal a needed, even if that direct object is a person. And then mi hija busca, she's looking for a boyfriend. That's that indefinite person. We don't know if he exists or not. So we don't need to include the personal a on that one. So ye, ne, ne. All right, so keep those in your notes and then keep moving forward. We're gonna look at the possessive adjectives really quick. You know, as we've talked before, possessive adjectives help us understand what somebody owns, what belongs to someone. So this is my class, these are your books, this is our school. And in Spanish, we have two forms of possessive adjectives. We have a short form and we have a long form. It's key to kind of keep these separate, so I want us to take down a few notes. So on that sheet of paper, make sure you have it ready to write down some possessive adjectives. Turn to page 125. And we'll see there the key and letter D possessive adjectives. You can read there that they are used to tell to whom or to what something belongs. They come in two varieties, just like I told you, short and long. So our short ones are short possessive adjectives. They're gonna come before the noun, just like we would say in English. My book, your chair, our school. Mi libro, tu silla, nuestra escuela. All right, so they act as adjectives, and remember in Spanish, adjectives always modify in two ways. What are they? Gender and number. So we want to keep in mind that they are adjectives. They modify the noun that they're describing. So if it's my book, it's mi libro. Or if I have my books, I have a plural noun, mis libros. Even though it's modifying the books that belong to me, I'm not going to change that adjective to match my gender. I'm matching gender and number with the noun that I'm modifying, okay? So we've got several different forms. If we want to look at it, we have mi and mis, or tú and tus, su and sus, nuestro, nuestra, nuestros, nuestras. So our book, nuestro libro, our chair, nuestra silla. Our books, nuestros libros, or our chairs, nuestras sillas. So that's the one that's gonna kind of be a little bit trickier because it does change in gender. And then we have your, alls, y'alls, or their, su or sus. So these would go before the noun they modify, all right? There's another form of possessive adjective as you read, and you'll flip over the page, página 126. All right, so we have the second form, the long form. These adjectives can stand by themselves or stand alone, or they can be used with the noun that they modify. With the short form, they came before the noun, like what we're used to in English, my book, our chair. In Spanish, when we use the long form, it's books, ours, or chairs, theirs. So it's that same pattern that we're typically used to with a noun and adjective. These fall afterwards. So these are a little bit different. They all end in O, and then they need to match in gender and a number with the noun that they modify. So some of the examples, no dejé los libros míos en el césped, sino las de ella. Or mis amigos y los tuyos, my friends and your friends. I don't have to repeat that friends again because I already know what I'm talking about. No van al concierto de Maroon 5. Unos clientes nuestros, some of our clients. Clientes nuestros. So that long form possessive adjective follows the noun. If you'll look kind of as we've hopefully written down these short forms and long forms, mío, tuyo, suyo, nuestro, and suyo, we want to make sure we match them up in person and form. So we have the ones that belong to me, you, him, her, or you as like your teacher or someone in a formal way of respect, our, and then your alls or theirs. Same thing down here, mine, yours, hers, ours, theirs. You want to make sure that you have these written or at least highlighted in your book. But pointing out here, we've got su and su, suyo and suyo. Well, what happens when do you want to sit in her chair? And I say, ¿quiere sentarse en la silla suya? Or en su silla? I don't know who I'm talking about if I'm just saying su. It can refer to a bunch of different individuals or people or group. So sometimes we have to clarify that. And that's what the little box on page 126 is suggesting, that if we use the possessive adjective su or sus or suyo, that we can clarify it. We can say it's the book, of hers, or the chair that belongs to her, la silla de ella. So you would have an article, noun, de, and then the person. That's what I wrote right here. If you use su or suyo, you would have the article el, la, los, las, remember gender and number, de, whoever it is from. So I drew here Carly with a cute hairstyle. I don't know. So la silla de ella or los libros de los estudiantes. So we can use this clarifier. Remember, Spanish is about kind of putting in a short form of conversating, but then having the ability to clarify whether it's we're throwing the ball to someone and we want to clarify who we're throwing it to, or if we want to use one of these type of adjectives to say that it's mine or yours or theirs. So you should be able to complete the work that follows from the personal I and then the possessive adjectives in your textbook over the weekend. So go ahead and get a start on that. I'll see if I can find something else to help reiterate with the possessive adjective. But I do hope you all are well, and I look forward to seeing you soon.